Hey guys, hang on a second. Oh, I'm full. Welcome back to day 25. We are in the afternoon session of the Karen Reed retrial. And Judy has some trivia for us. Chloe/Cora, because she was renamed Cora, reportedly bit 2 humans prior to this incident, sending them to the ER. She also attacked several dogs. Chloe was rehomed shortly after this incident, allegedly. I also heard that she bit a human after this, and that was why she was rehomed. But I don't know if that's true or if that was just something that was made up to justify the fact that she was rehomed after this incident. So I really don't know. What was I watching? I don't remember what it was. It was a news show, but why? I don't remember. Darn it. It was news, but I feel like it was on someone's channel. Might have been Melanie Little's channel. Oh, I've heard both human and dog too, but I heard human before this happened and human after this happened. So, like they said, after this happened as a justification for why she was rehomed. As in, oh, this wasn't why she was rehomed. She was rehomed because she bit someone after this happened. In other words, she wasn't rehomed because this happened because she didn't bite anybody because this happened. Like, she didn't bite John O'Keefe. So this was not why she was rehomed. You know what I mean? And I want to say that was said in the first trial by one of the Alberts. Might have been Nicole, the same one that said that Chloe was never a police dog. But I'm not sure. I've heard so much. I've been doing this case for so long and I've heard so much. It's all jumbled up in my brain. I cannot keep anything in this trial straight anymore. It's just. Well, no, I heard both. That she has just attacked people and dogs more than once. And that is why she has been rehomed. Because of the repeated attacks. And then in the news thing, I started to say and got sidetracked. The news thing, they actually talked to a neighbor who had friends, 2 different people that was attacked by Chloe, who he said was on the witness list for this trial. But that doesn't mean they're gonna testify. So I hope they do, but that just because they're on the list doesn't mean they're going to testify. But that would be cool if they could. So, hey, Jill. Hey, lurkers out there. Please sub if you're not subbed. Feel free to chat with us. We don't bite. And if you have other views, please speak up. We don't care. We're not here to try to convince anybody of anything. We're just discussing what we think. So if you think different, we will discuss. It's not a contest. If you believe otherwise, because it is what it is. Like, it is ridiculous to think that all these people would frame this one poor woman. But I still believe it. I do still believe it. If they're not, I mean, I don't even know, like, if they set out in the beginning to frame her for anything. Maybe something happened in the house and that was the afterthought, like, oh, we can just say Karen hit him in the car. Let's go him in the yard and say that. Or, like, I don't know what happened in that house, but they're covering up something. By the way they're acting, they're covering up something. Why do you win? Wiggles, why do you win? Why do you win? I will never know what really happened. Never, ever, ever.
Your Honor, if we could please publish Exhibit 1 in evidence.
Okay.
Mr. Wolk. Dr. Russell, do you review of the documents in this case?
Yeah. Yes.
And what is it that Exhibit 1 represents?
It's a picture of the forearm of the decedent.
And
Put my banner back up.
we left off at lunch, and I'm not going to cover where we were. You were discussing you want to use that available?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here's another one closer to the wrist. And here's another near the elbow.
In terms of these wounds, do you look at them individually?
Get them individually, and then I put them in context of how they relate to one another.
And how they relate to one another, is there a name of that other?
Well, I think it's a pattern methodology, pattern recognition.
And what pattern
that these wounds were initiated closer to the anterior surface or the front of the forearm.
I'm sorry, Dr. Russell, to interrupt you, but there's a fan back here which I can hear, but if you could just keep your voice up, that would be great for me.
Yes, I believe they all started closer to the anterior or front portion of the arm. Like they started up here, here, up here, and the direction is towards the posterior portion.
I want you to do a comparison. If we could go back, Your Honor.
Massachusetts needs to hire someone from Florida to go up there and do the AC units in these courtrooms so they don't have to use fans and they can hear.
Please back to Exhibit 157.
Not kidding.
That we had up earlier.
Okay.
I'm sorry. 167. And one, Keith was located.
The previous one.
All right, so let's go back to the previous one. So that one is closer in time to when Mr. O'Keefe was located on January 29 of 2022, correct?
Yes.
And so January 29, 2022, if we can go back to Exhibit 157, or 67, excuse me, 167, can you tell when this picture was taken from the depiction?
Well, it says January 31st.
Okay, so is that the basis for you saying that the Exhibit 1 was closer in time to when Mr. O'Keefe was located?
Yes.
All right, so I want to do another comparison, have you do another comparison of the two. If you can look at what is depicted in Exhibit 167, and now go back to 1 and see if you see any differences at all as to what's depicted. Do you see any differences with regard to the wounds on the arm, or the arm just in general? Let's go back to, see that now, let's go back to 167.
Well, the coloration of the photograph is slightly different.
And what do you mean the coloration?
Well, the skin tones here are more yellow than they are in the previous photograph.
And I'm sorry, what is, do you have a conclusion as to why there is a difference in skin tone in this exhibit compared to Exhibit 1?
Well, it could just be technique, lighting technique. I do see some lividity on the chest, postmortem lividity, and that's what that means is pooling of the blood, which happens after death.
Can you explain to the jury what lividity is?
Yes. So, blood follows the laws of gravity, and the blood will settle to the dependent parts of the body. In this case, the body, the body of Mr. O'Keefe is horizontal, and so the blood is going to settle from the top of the chest, which would probably be up here somewhere, down towards the back, which would be the inferior portion of the chest in that position. And likewise, it would happen on the extremities too.
So you just mentioned the extremities. Do you see any lividity on the extremity here, the right arm?
You know, actually, there is discoloration over here in the elbow area. I do see some lividity. Okay, so there's several areas of lividity on the arm. I'm sorry. There's some right here. This redness right here in the near the wrist. I believe that's postmortem lividity. I believe that this redness in here near the elbow is also postmortem lividity, and yeah, that's what I believe.
Okay.
That's postmortem lividity.
And
wounds.
Again, lividity is that, you said something that sets in after time, after death?
Yes, it's the pooling of blood.
Is there, with regard to this depiction, do you see any bruising with regard to that elbow?
You know, I think that initially, earlier this morning, with the lighting, I may have said that this was bruising, but now as I think about it, and I see all this other lividity here, lividity over here, I believe that's postmortem lividity.
And if we could go back to Exhibit 1, and you said this is the one that's closer in time to when Mr. O'Keefe was located, do you see any lividity or bruising with regard to that photo?
I don't see any definite bruising. I do see some discoloration up here near the shoulder. I'm not sure if that's postmortem lividity or not. It could be early postmortem lividity.
Okay. So if we could, thank you, Mr. Woe, can we take that depiction down for the moment? What I'd like to do is to, and we'll come back to that. If we could have the lights back on, please. Thank you.
So focused on saving his life, I don't think they would have been focused on the wounds, Judy. So I don't think they would have cleaned his wounds, but I'm positive.
Have you had, prior to this case, in performing your pattern recognition methodology skills with regard to dog-inflicted wounds on humans? In other words, have you seen dog-inflicted wounds that have a pattern on humans?
I've seen dog wounds that have had a pattern. I didn't need to do it, utilize that skill because I also had other information about the case. You know, for instance, police officer or the victim himself said, you know, I was attacked by a dog.
Right. And for those that can you give an example, like in the ER, just as to how you would come to have that knowledge or otherwise? How would you generally come to have the knowledge as to a potential source of the wound?
Oftentimes it's the victim that tells me, or in the case of the law enforcement dog bites, I had both victim and police officers tell me that the police dog, inflicted these wounds.
And so and how many times generally in your career, we discussed it this morning, how many times generally did someone present with dog-inflicted wounds and you were told that these wounds were from a dog? Roughly how many in your career?
Well, all of the law enforcement dog bites, so that would be 40 to 60 or so of those, plus most of the non-law enforcement dog bites, the patients or the mother have said this, a dog bit me or a dog bit my son.
And for those where someone said something, the dog bit my son, were the wounds that you saw similar to or different from the wounds that are depicted in Exhibit 1 that we've had up on the screen?
On the civilian dog bites, there's some similarities, but not as many striations on the civilian dog bites.
And are the more striations on what's depicted in Exhibit 1, does that lead you to more easily conclude it's from a dog bite, or is it harder for you to conclude it's from a dog bite?
Neither.
Right. So is your prior experience as an emergency room physician, as a physician in Cochrane, does that experience allow you to exercise pattern recognition skills with regard to Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 157?
Objection. Sustained.
Do you use your pattern recognition, did you use your pattern recognition skills in evaluating Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 157?
Yes. Yes.
In terms of characteristics of dog bites, if we can go back to Exhibit 1, please. Is Exhibit 1 highly characteristic of a dog bite or lowly characteristic of a dog bite?
Sustained.
How would you describe the characteristics of what appears on Exhibit 1?
What I see on Exhibit 1 is multiple strikes from a dog.
I'm going to allow it.
Can you please repeat your answer?
Yes,
What you see?
multiple strikes from a dog.
And with regard to, do you see any characteristics in terms of a medical observation with regard to those strikes?
I don't understand the
Okay.
question.
Are you familiar with the medical term pathognomonic?
Oh, yes.
What is the definition of pathognomonic?
Pathognomonic in medicine means that the characteristics of a condition are so highly specific and unique that they basically say that it can only be from a certain condition and no other condition. So to the exclusion of all other conditions. That's what is meant by pathognomonic. At least that's my understanding.
Do you consider these wounds pathognomonic?
Sustained.
How do you evaluate these wounds in terms of what you call their characteristics?
I characterize them as highly specific for a dog attack.
I'm going to strike the last word, Mr. Wilson.
In terms of the characteristics that you have talked about, are there any other aspects of dog dentition that you can discern from Exhibit 1?
I don't understand the question.
You mentioned earlier when we had the dog dentition exhibit up, you mentioned an arch. Is there any aspect of Exhibit 1 that concerns an arch?
Yes, there is, in my opinion, an arch-like structure right here towards the lower part of the forearm, towards the wrist, suggesting that this here is made from the very front teeth of the dog. Now, when one looks at these injuries or wounds, one has to remember that, number one, this is not a mannequin. This is a person whose skin is somewhat elastic, whose skin will slide over the underlying bones, and so therefore some of the wounds may have been created by the exact same teeth, for instance, but look differently, depending on the part of the anatomy, the elasticity of the skin, also depending on things like if there was clothing or something in between the teeth and the skin. So one has to consider that, and also there may be motion motion effects. The living victim could have been pulling away from the dog. The dog could have been, pulling or jumping, a little slight bit of skin with his teeth. So there's a movement, and one has to when and
I'm going to strike that.
Can we approach, Your Honor?
Sure.
Okay, so I started a goal. Facebook just sent me a memory of a 3-month-old kitten video of Shadow. And my other cat is in it too. And I forgot I even made it. I didn't watch the whole thing. So 5 super chats, I will play it. Are we? Yeah, we're caught up to live. At least seconds behind the live. Thank you, Judy. There's one. Yeah, I think she saw him because why would she lie about that? I know we're jumping way back to the other topic, but seriously, why would you lie about that? Why would you make that story up? Especially if you're nothing to do with the case like she is. That's why I think she really did see that.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. If we could put the Exhibit 1 back up on the screen, please, Mr. Wolf.
What? That's crazy.
Dr. Russell, is what's depicted on the screen one dog bite or more than one dog bite?
Ask it differently, Mr. Wilson.
Dr. Russell, can you determine from
How is
this
that possible?
depiction?
They don't want your
How do
money.
you evaluate this depiction with regard to dog bites?
well, I see several groupings of wounds. Here's one grouping up near the shoulder. Here's another distinct grouping near the elbow, but above the elbow. Here is a third grouping around the back of the elbow and the upper forearm. Here's some additional marks. I think they're separate, but I don't know exactly if they are separate dog bites or scratches. And then there's another grouping around the posterior forearm near the wrist. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There's at least 4 different types of either bites or combination bite and claw marks.
You mentioned claw marks. Is there any evidence of claw marks in this exhibit?
It's hard to say exactly what what these marks are. This one here, and even to a certain extent, this one here has some characteristics of both claw marks and bites. So,
Even though you may not be able to determine whether it's a claw mark, can you determine, or the specific type of mark, can you determine that those are from a dog?
I believe they are. Yes.
So now let's go. You mentioned we'll switch. We can leave that up for just a moment because we're going to come right back to it. And Dr. Russell, earlier on you used the phrase incomplete dental impression. Do you recall that?
Something like that. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jill.
What phrase would you like to use? Because you were describing whether a dog or not had a complete bite. What phrase would you like to use?
But that's okay. Incomplete bite. I
Okay.
might
Do you
consider.
see any evidence of an incomplete bite on Exhibit 1?
I believe all of the bites here are incomplete.
Why do you come to that conclusion?
Because in my opinion, they don't penetrate the skin, which I would consider more of a bite or more of a complete bite. So they're just scratches on the surface of the skin.
When you say they don't penetrate the skin, we see the marks that are on there. What do you mean that they don't penetrate the skin?
They don't penetrate the full thickness of the skin and extend into the soft tissue underneath.
And what, in terms of incompleteness that you just described, have you observed incomplete dog bites in your career?
Many.
Roughly how many incomplete dog bites have you observed and treated in your career?
Over 100.
In our incomplete bites, the majority of bites from civilian dogs, or are they a minority of the bites from civilian dogs?
I believe they're the majority of the bites of civilian dogs.
Did you determine whether these wounds occurred at the same time?
I believe they did.
Why do you come to the conclusion that they occurred at the same time?
Because of the wound characteristics, the coloration of the wounds, the tissue reaction to the wounds. So they all, timing are at the same time, around the same time.
Did you determine whether these wounds were sustained by Mr. O'Keefe before or after he died?
Before he died.
How do you reach the conclusion that these wounds were suffered by Mr. O'Keefe before he died?
Because they have what we call a vital reaction. So there is an ever so slight vital reaction or inflammation around the edges of the wounds. And so that determines that, that supports the fact that they were inflicted during life.
Dr. Russell, did you observe Mr. O'Keefe's right arm personally?
No.
Is it generally accepted in the practice of medicine, particularly emergency or pathology, to observe and determine the source of a wound from a photograph after death?
It is generally accepted.
And have you, in your career,
Really?
used photographs to determine wounds and patterns of wounds?
Yes.
I expected her to say no.
And is that an accepted practice?
Yes.
And it is a generally accepted practice?
Yes.
Now, in conducting we're going to switch a little bit now to what you call the differential diagnosis. In conducting your differential diagnosis with regard to motor vehicle accidents, describe for the jury how you performed that differential diagnosis with regard to the decedent. And we can leave that up for just a moment. Go ahead, Dr. Russell.
Objection.
So I'm going to need to see you. Sorry folks.
I am so sick of these sidebars. I don't even know what to do during them. I feel like I'm just useless during them because you guys, I want to entertain and I can't. I don't know. I don't know how to entertain you during sidebars. Do they rig every laptop in the world so that it eventually gets to where the plug doesn't work? So you have to go out and buy a new one. Every laptop I've ever had. Like now I've got a thing of post-it notes underneath the plug. They'll be back inside. will let me turn my camera back on. Nope, not gonna do it. And we're back. Are we back? Oh, here we go. There's Gandalf. I'm gonna put this. I wanted to put it somewhere where you guys could. If I put it here, if I put it over here, you guys can see it, but you can't tell what it is. I mean, you guys can still see it. This is the first thing I ever got from one of my members. Have on my studio, even though this is not my final studio. I still don't know if I'm ever going to have a real studio in a room that I can close off
Yeah,
and
one,
make my
exhibit
own,
one.
instead of between my
Thank you for
dining
your
room and my
patience,
laundry room.
Dr.
Ow.
Russell,
Come on,
is
Jared.
what the wounds you see on exhibit one consistent or inconsistent with what you have seen from your experience with regard to motor vehicle
Number,
accident
nothing.
victims?
StreamYard. Go back. No.
If I could have published exhibit 206, which is in evidence, Your Honor.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do you
I buy all my
recognize exhibit
documents.
206?
Yes.
Did you review that as part of any report in this case?
Yes.
And can you describe how you reviewed the document as part of your evaluation of this case?
Well, I reviewed the injuries, which are so this is a decedent, a picture of a decedent, a different case, not the decedent in this case, totally separate case.
And
So
is this from Dr. Welcher's report that you reviewed?
Yes.
All right, so continue,
Trying to
please.
make it bigger, guys.
And so this is a person deceased, looks like in the street, and he's got multiple injuries. And this is allegedly from an auto versus pedestrian accident.
StreamYard.
So if we could, are you able to discern any injuries to any limbs from this? If you could zoom in on the limbs, Mr. Wolf, thank you.
So there is a very extensive degloving, partially degloving, avulsion injury to the forearm of this individual, the extensive skin loss, damage to the subcutaneous tissue, possibly damage to other tissues beneath that.
And Mr. Wolk, if you could zoom back out and go to the list that is highlighted in the original of this. And Dr. Russell, can you tell me whether you evaluated the list, and if so, how did you evaluate that list in connection with the photo?
Well, the photo is limited only really to the upper chest and the right arm. And so I can't comment on any of the CAT scan findings here on this list. But this was a list of numerous traumatic injuries to this person. And regarding the arm, it says right upper extremity wound with vascular injury, clinical.
What does that mean, if anything, to you?
Well, that suggests it's a soft tissue wound. However, what they're saying is clinical, so they're not commenting on if there were any X-ray findings, for instance. On an X-ray, but I mean, would be a post-mortem X-ray. And this is just a clinical diagnosis or a visual hands-on diagnosis.
Do you know whether that line that you just read relates to any part of the photograph? Any part of the photograph?
Well, I believe it relates to that injury that we pointed out in the previous photograph.
Can you switch back to that, please, Mr. Wolf? If you could just zoom in and just what does...
So this is the wound that they are talking about. It's a large gaping wound, soft tissue wound.
If we could go back to the list, please. Zoom in, thank you.
But,
Please continue.
no. What I was going to say is that there are multiple other injuries in this person. Multiple serious, significant injuries, subdural hemorrhage, subarachnoid hemorrhage, intraventricular hemorrhage, liver laceration, pneumothorax. That's blood and air in the chest cavity outside of the lungs. So it's in an area where it shouldn't be. This person had numerous injuries.
Are you able to compare these injuries in that photo in this Exhibit 206? And did you compare them to your review of the autopsy report and other medical records of Mr. O'Keefe?
Sustained.
Answer the question? Oh.
No.
Okay.
You can take that down. From your review, did Mr. O'Keefe sustain any liver laceration?
No.
Did Mr. O'Keefe sustain any gaping, as you called it, lacerations to the right forearm?
No.
Did Mr. O'Keefe sustain any pneumothorax injuries that you were describing with regard to 206?
No pneumothorax.
Let's switch to another topic. Let's talk about clothing of the decedent. In forming your opinion, did you consider Mr. O'Keefe's clothing in relation to his wounds?
Yes.
I never
If we could, Your Honor, have
before.
Exhibit 150 in evidence published.
Okay.
Do you recognize what's depicted in Exhibit 150?
Yes.
And what is it?
It's a picture of part of the hoodie, sweatshirt or shirt that Mr. O'Keefe was wearing at the time.
And wearing when?
At the time of his death.
And did you evaluate this photo as part of your review of the autopsy report?
Yes.
And we're going to come back to this. If we could please switch to, Your Honor, 147C in evidence.
Okay.
Thank you. And what is 147C?
So this is a close-up of the sleeve of that shirt that we just saw on the previous image. And there's a hole or defect here in the sleeve, which I'm circling with the pointer. And there's a label that labels it number 1. And so I see this hole that is rather round and appears to have some fabric coming out of the hole towards the exterior of the jacket or the shirt.
Did you attribute any significance to the shape of the wound, and if so, what significance?
The shape of the hole, yes. So it's rounded. I actually attributed a lot of significance to that.
Describe a lot of significance that you attributed to this hole.
Well, I believe that this hole was made by a canine tooth, and with the tooth going into the shirt, reaching the skin, and then coming out of the shirt, pulling out some fabric with it.
And we'll come back to this, if we could, Mr. Wolk, go to 147D as in David that's in evidence. Do you recognize this photo?
Yes.
What is it?
A round hole in the shirt, again with some fabric fibers pointing towards the outside of the shirt.
Is this the same hole that we just saw on 147C or a different hole?
Could we go back? I don't know.
Okay, so let's now go back to Exhibit 150. What significance, if any, do you give to the various triangles that are on the hoodie? Could you describe to the jury what those are and what's their purpose?
So the triangles are labels that were placed by either the police or the crime lab or someone, and the point of the triangle generally is pointing towards a hole in the shirt. As you can see, there are multiple ones here, and I want to make sure.
So let's start with each one, and we'll go through these quickly. Let's start and zoom in on number 1. What did you conclude about the source of that hole in the hoodie?
Sustained.
Did you evaluate what is depicted as number 1 in that slide as part of your review?
Yes.
And what was your evaluation?
Sustained.
Let's go back and zoom out. Have you, in your career, examined clothing either as part of your forensic pathology practice or your emergency medicine practice to determine the source of defects in clothing?
Yes.
How many times have you done that approximately in your career?
Several hundred.
And have you, in those several hundred times, have you ever had to reach a conclusion as to whether there was any connection between defects in clothing and wounds to humans?
Many times.
Can you give some examples of the many times you've had to look at clothing and defects in clothing to assist you in determining wound recognition in a human?
Yes, so let me clarify. It's mostly used in forensic pathology, not so much in emergency medicine. The clothing and the cause of the wound is as important as in emergency medicine as the treatment of the wound. But in forensic pathology, it's a key component to any examination where you think that it was an unnatural death. So, so I've done it in gunshot wounds, in stab wounds, multiple times, looking at the defects, looking at the direction of the, of what I think the bullet, bullet track was, determining entry and exit wounds. In stab wounds, I've utilized them to help determine offensive and defensive wounds or injuries. So yes, many times.
Have you ever performed that analysis? You mentioned, testified earlier, 500 to 1,000 evaluations of dog-inflicted wounds on humans. Have you ever performed the analysis of defects in clothing and compared them to wounds on humans in the context of dog-inflicted wounds on humans?
I don't think so. Perhaps in that one trial case.
Well, yes. So in terms of, have there been any instances of doing that in your career? Have you done that at all in your career?
Maybe that one trial case.
All righty. So let's go now to the you were discussing the defects in the arm as well as the wounds in the arm and then the defects in the clothing. In terms of the, back to Exhibit 1. In terms of that pattern that is in the arm, and in terms, let's go back to the hoodie, I'll strike that. Have you in your career, in the terms of evaluating motor vehicle accidents, have you evaluated the clothing of victims of motor vehicle accidents?
Yes.
How many times roughly have you evaluated what clothing looks like in terms of motor vehicle accidents?
Well, in many cases, I had to cut off the clothing in the emergency department, so I observed the clothing then. And then in the post-mortem cases, I evaluated the clothing, but oftentimes sometimes it wasn't helpful.
Have you ever evaluated clothing in determining whether or not the defects in the clothing are consistent or inconsistent with a motor vehicle accident? Have you ever evaluated that as a forensic pathologist?
Not specifically.
Right. And in terms of your observations in either emergency medicine or forensic pathology, have you ever observed defects from motor vehicle accidents in clothing?
Yes.
Is what is depicted in this exhibit consistent or inconsistent with a motor vehicle accident?
Sustained.
In determining, let's go back to Exhibit 1, please. In determining and reaching your opinion with regard to the source of these wounds, is it necessary for you to reach that opinion to see a specific dog to determine whether the wounds are from a dog in general?
No.
And in your experience that you talked about earlier today, the 500 to 1,000, was it ever necessary in that experience to go locate the dog, to see the dog, to treat or evaluate the patient?
No.
Why is it, well, in terms of, we're going to move to another category, studies. Did you review any studies in forming your opinions in this case?
Can we put the lights on and take this?
Yeah,
down,
yes,
Mr.
thank you,
Vice
Your
Mayor?
Honor. Yes.
Yes, many.
And did those studies that you review support or not support your conclusions in this case?
Sustained.
Which studies did you rely upon?
Well, I reviewed quite a few, 10 to 20 in depth, and I relied a lot on two of the articles.
Do you recall the names of the lead authors in the studies that you said, that you just referenced?
Yes, one of them was Demunick.
Could you spell that, please?
I wish. Demunnyck, I believe.
And was there?
And then there was another one, Pollack, Pollack.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Your Honor, my recollection is correct. We've already pre-marked as exhibits for identification these studies, two studies. I may be incorrect in that. If so, I have studies. I'm going to show them to Mr. Yes, thank you. So we can just make sure I have all pages. Do you have these handed up for the order?
Oh, I have none.
Okay.
So if I can just have them go, Your Honor.
Okay, I've got them. These are them. If I could have marked for identification as one document, please.
Exhibit PPP for ID.
One more, Madam Court Reporter, thank you.
And exhibit QQQ for ID.
Mr. Unless you would, when court reporters down.
Sure. Exhibit PPP is the Demunick, and exhibit QQQ is Pollack, and those are the lead author names. You're welcome. May I leave them with the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Russell, I have provided you with those two exhibits. I would ask you to just briefly take a look at them and let me know whether you recognize those as the articles that you were referencing before.
Yes.
Now let's start out with the Demunick study. Is that exhibit PPP?
PP.
Right. So is this the study that you referenced earlier in your testimony?
Yes.
Can you briefly describe for the jury how that study related to the opinions in this case?
Objection. Sustained.
Are these the studies that you cite to as a basis for support for your opinions in this case?
Yes.
And is QQQ a study that also supports your opinion in this case?
Yes.
Now, in terms of your conclusions with regard to, if we can go back once more to exhibit number 1. With regard to your opinion on the cause of these injuries, can you once again state your opinion as to the cause of these injuries?
I believe these injuries were caused by a dog attack.
So I'm going to strike that word.
Yeah, so Dr. Russell, if you could, with regard to bite parlance, can you state what your opinion is with regard to bite? So do you have an opinion as to what caused these injuries?
Yes, I believe that these injuries are the result of dog bites and or claw marks.
And do you hold that opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty?
Yes.
That is all the questions I have for this witness at this time.
We're gonna get the cross today.
You want these? Okay.
Please don't be mean to this sweet little old lady, Brendan. Do it.
May I?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Dr. Russell.
Good afternoon, Mr. Brennan.
Dr. Russell, we've met before.
Yes.
I've asked you questions before,
Yes.
and you've testified before where I've had a chance to ask you about some of your statements and opinions, haven't I?
Yes.
Before this case, had you ever testified as in dog bite in the United States? In any state court,
No.
other than this case, have you ever testified in a courtroom as an expert about dog bites?
No.
Last year, you learned that there was litigation regarding this case, Commonwealth versus Karen Reed, correct?
Yes.
You learned a little bit of information about it, and it piqued your interest, didn't it?
Yes.
Did you know that the case was receiving a lot of attention?
No.
Did you know that it was on television?
I had no idea until I got here.
You spoke to a colleague in Los Angeles, correct?
I'm sorry, I spoke to who?
A colleague?
I spoke to a district attorney in Los Angeles.
And did you just bring up the subject, or did that person bring it up to you?
I brought it up.
When you brought that up, is it because you knew of the relationship between that district attorney and somebody on the defense team?
Yes.
You wanted to get involved in this high-profile case, didn't you?
No.
Well, you weren't called by anybody on the defense and retained as an expert in the traditional sense, were you?
That's correct.
It was after you reached out yourself and interjected yourself into this case, true?
I did so for a reason. And the reason being that I knew I was one of the only people in the United States board certified and residency trained in emergency medicine and also residency trained in forensic pathology. And therefore, I had a unique skill or knowledge set. And I was one of the people that had the knowledge of dog bites, as well as those other.
And because profile case, didn't you?
I thought I could help clarify the issues as to whether or not this could be a dog bite, and maybe they could move on to something else if it wasn't.
Did you want to get involved?
No, not really.
Inevitably, you got hired by the defense, didn't you?
Yes, I reluctantly agreed.
And they paid for your time?
They are paying for the time.
Yes. Did you know that there was a relationship between the district attorney you spoke to in California and somebody on this defense table?
I know, yes,
So when you spoke to the district attorney, did you have the hope that they would reach out on your behalf to get you involved in this case?
As I said, I hoped that they could reach out to the team and I could help clarify issues so that they could move on. If it wasn't if these weren't dog bites, then no sense spending a whole bunch of time on it.
After you testified
Ago as a dog bite expert, I think. I'm not sure, but yes, I did advertise myself as a emergency medicine and forensic pathology expert
did you take
with other, sub interests.
Sure. Did you take a photograph of you testifying at trial and put
It's a listing service for physicians, and yes, there is a photograph.
so you took a photograph from your participation in this event,
Yes, that's there.
and you used that photograph in your participation in this event to try to procure future work, didn't you?
I wouldn't say that was the reason, no.
When you listed a number of things that you have experience in after this case, you then added that you were an expert in dog bites, didn't you?
I believe I am an expert in dog bites, yes.
But after this case, and after you took the photograph from this case, and after you created this advertising, you then added the fact that you were an expert in dog bites, didn't you?
It was all at the same time, and it was submitted at the same time.
Right. After this case, after you participated or
Well-
volunteered to involve yourself in this case, you then used it as a marketing opportunity, didn't you?
Well,
StreamYard, stop. What are you doing, StreamYard? Knock it off.
and not specifically dog bite cases. I have much more experience with other cases.
Undoubtedly, I respect that, but simply after you
Let's
testified in
go,
this case, you
Brittany.
did use your participation as a way to try to garner future interest in cases and income, didn't you?
I did, but I did not mention this case.
Have you testified in any other court since this case as a dog bite expert?
No,
You had written a few articles that were peer-reviewed on dog bites back in, is it the 1990s?
here.
yes,
And they involved law enforcement canines?
yes,
And you describe in those articles how a law enforcement canine grabs and holds, is that the technique they call it?
yes,
Where they lock their jaw and then they pull and hold on to
lock
the
their
subject
jaw.
that they're attacking or holding?
yes, that's what they were trained to do back then.
And you would agree that there's a difference between, generally, the way a domestic dog bites and a law enforcement dog bites.
Generally, yes.
Since those two articles in 1990, have you
Dogs
authored
lock their jaw.
anything else regarding dog bites?
No,
You had mentioned that you had gone to seminars regarding identification. Now, I had a chance to ask you a number of months ago about some details about training and education you have on pattern recognition analysis as it specifically relates to dog bites. Remember I asked you those questions a number of months ago?
I believe you did.
And I'd asked you if you could give us any specific listed trainings that you had regarding pattern recognition analysis of dog bites. And at that time, you did not have any names of any classes or seminars or certificates that you have. You mentioned again today that you have attended seminars regarding dog identification analysis. Do you now know some of those trainings and seminars? And are any of those listed on your CV?
The trainings that I went to on bite marks in general, they were bite marks in general and included things like how to determine what was a human bite, how to differentiate a human bite from a dog bite. But no, I did not specifically attend seminars limited to dog bites only. However, actually, there was one this past February that I did attend at the American Academy of Forensic Science.
Over your many, many decades, you did not attend any seminars on pattern recognition analysis of dog bites, did you?
Of specifically dog bites, no.
I only want to talk about dog bites. I know you're well trained and educated. I respect that, but I want to talk about dog bites. You didn't attain any certificates in pattern recognition analysis of dog bites, did you?
I don't think there are any that exist, any training programs like that.
In fact, forensically, have you ever been presented with a wound and been asked to determine whether or not the source of it was a dog bite, other than right here in this very case? Have you ever been asked to do that in your entire history?
In my clinical career, perhaps once or twice, but not, not that I can give you a specific name.
Well, the couple times, tell us what stands out. When were you asked ever, over your entire career, to do a forensic evaluation of a wound and identify whether it was a dog bite? When did that happen?
A forensic evaluation? No, never,
Never.
never.
Okay.
It just doesn't come up.
Okay. And so this is the first in trying to make a determination based just on a photograph whether or not the wound is generated from a particular mechanism, and in this case, your opinion, a dog bite.
No, actually, I disagree. I've been taking photographs of dog bites since the 1990s.
And when you took the photographs, you knew they were dog bites.
I did know that there were dog bites,
Have you
yes. I have a collection.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
That was it.
Okay. So not when you knew it was a dog bite and you took a photo. I know you have an interest. I'm asking, other than this case, there was never, ever a time in your career where you were presented with a photo and asked to give an opinion whether the mechanism of injury was a dog bite, other than this case.
That's correct.
So this is not a pattern recognition analysis engagement that you have any experience in before this effort.
I've recognized that pattern many times.
I appreciate your opinion, but I want to ask my question. You do not have experience over your long, accomplished career in the effort of pattern recognition analysis of dog bite wounds. Isn't that fair to say?
Okay.
You mentioned before, and you just mentioned again, so I want to ask you some more questions. You believe that you are uniquely qualified to look at a photograph and give an opinion about the source of the injury.
I'm not uniquely qualified. That's done all the time in forensic pathology. Many forensic pathologists do that.
Did you just say you're one of the very few physicians in the United States who has both the forensic and the clinical experience to look at a photograph and make a determination, the mechanism of injury?
No, I said, if I said that, then that was incorrect. I meant dog bites. Dog bites. But your question just now was not specific to dog bites.
Right.
Postmortem photographs are used all the time in forensic pathology for second opinions.
You're right. My apologies. Did you say today and before, have you said that you believe you're one of the only few physicians in the United States who could authoritatively distinguish between causes of wounds when it relates to dog bites?
I did say that, and that's because of my unique training. I don't know of another doctor in the whole United States that did 2 residencies, one in emergency medicine and one in forensic pathology, and has a lifelong interest in dog bites.
So, Dr. Russell, from your perspective, as far as you know, you were the only person in the entire United States of America who was qualified to look at a photograph and make a determination whether the wound was derived from a dog bite.
No, I am one of I'm the only physician that I know of that can do that. There may be, a few others out there. There may be, but I don't know of any other physicians that can do that.
Do you recognize anybody other than yourself who has this very particular expertise to be able to do this kind of work?
I'm not aware of anyone.
You were a medical examiner, a forensic pathologist,
Yes,
and you know there's about, or would you agree there's probably about 900 to 1,000 medical examiners around the country at the same time over a period of time?
I believe that there might be. There's probably. I think there's around 500 or 600 practicing forensic pathologists.
And do you think because they are forensic pathologists, those 500 or 600 people have the unique qualifications as you do to be able to give an opinion about the genesis of a wound?
Wounds in general, perhaps. Dog bite wounds, I doubt that very many of them have a specific interest in dog bite wounds.
And so you think that of all those forensic pathologists, medical examiners, you think that qualification and experience itself is not enough to qualify somebody to give an opinion on a photograph about the genesis of a wound related to dog bites?
Well, if a forensic pathologist has autopsied 1 or 2 cases of dog bite wounds versus my experience with over 500 to 1,000 cases of dog bite wounds, I'm not so sure that person would be a very good expert in that kind of a case.
Have you ever heard of a doctor named Dr. La Posada?
I've heard of Dr. La Posada.
Have you ever read any reports by Dr. La Posada?
No,
Has anybody ever shared with you any information or opinions of Dr. La Posada?
I believe she has a very good reputation.
Have you ever, well, how do you believe that? Who told you that?
Because I've heard of her name at national organizations. I believe she's given presentations nationally. I've seen her name, over a dozen years or so.
Do you know whether or not she has any participation in this case?
I believe she does.
Well, so you know when you're providing accolades that she has maybe some involvement in this case? Do you know that?
I would provide those same accolades if she didn't have involvement in this case.
Do you know that she has involvement in this case?
I believe she does. The attorneys have not shared everything with me
Well-
in terms of who the witnesses are.
Somebody must have shared her name. Who shared her name with you?
I'm very familiar with her name outside this case.
Who shared her name that she may be a participant in this case?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Well, somebody might.
I think I got a file or something, but yeah.
So when you were reviewing this case, did you get materials from any of the attorneys authored by Dr. La Posada?
I don't think I read a report. I was very interested in reading a report by Dr. La Posada. I was very interested, but I didn't see one.
So when you received materials in this case, you didn't read all the materials the defense gave you?
I don't believe they gave me the report.
What report?
Any report that Dr. La Posada might have written.
Do you know whether or not you've received the report or not?
I received something that had her name on it. I don't remember what it was, but I was looking for a medical examiner's or a report, an actual report, and I did not see one.
Dr. Russell, you are meticulous when you look and examine things.
Right.
So you would know what you've received and what you've read and what you haven't. So the fact that you're telling us that you saw something with her name on it, can you give us a little more information and share with us what it is you actually received about this Dr. La Posada? What did you get from the defense?
I saw something. I think it was the name of a file folder, but I looked for a report and there was no report in it.
Did you ever ask for one?
I didn't ask because I didn't ask. I really wanted to read it, but I didn't. It wasn't given to me, so I didn't ask.
Were you ever told what other people's opinions might be regarding those photographs?
I'm aware that there was a Dr. Sheridan involved in a previous proceeding, and he believed that those were consistent with dog bites.
Did you ever receive any reports from the defense about what other persons' opinions would be in this trial about dog bites?
Oh, yes, I received a report authored by a non-physician, yes.
So when you say non-physician, you're trying to make the point because you think that person might be your opponent in this case?
Quit
I don't have any opponents.
putting words in her mouth,
Why do you
Brennan.
qualify him as a non-physician?
Because I believe that in order to really understand wounds on a human being, one needs to have treated wounds, seen lots of wounds, and I think that the person that is best qualified for that is a physician.
So a medical examiner wouldn't cut it, in your opinion?
Medical examiner is a physician.
So you think a medical examiner has enough experience to come in and give an opinion on
Some-
dog bites?
Some, but in their case, I would hope that they have had actual clinical experience with autopsy.
Your Honor.
I'm going to allow it.
How about a non-doctor, as you said, you made a distinction?
Uh-huh.
They're simply a dog trainer, maybe even an uncertified dog trainer. Would that person have the qualifications?
Yes, Sirius
in your
Black
mind,
turned into
to
a
look
dog.
at photographs
You're
and
absolutely
determine
right,
whether or not
Rose.
the cause of the injury is a dog bite?
There may be a certain small subset of people who have, very much experience with dog bites that could qualify as suggesting that these are consistent with dog bites, but I don't think that they could definitively. I'm not. I think that someone could, who dealt with many dog bites in the past on humans, could possibly say that they were consistent with.
Even if they didn't have the clinical experience?
Well, I'd prefer to hear that information from a physician, but I wouldn't rule out that only doctors, only a physician, MD, could say that something was a dog bite.
It seems like the
Name was
standard is
Pat
now
Put.
kind of changing a little bit. Because when I asked you,
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustain.
you mentioned the other person, you disqualified the person because they weren't a doctor. It seems now in some instances, you're willing to accept a non-doctor into your very select group of experts.
Well, I can explain. If someone had looked at perhaps hundreds and hundreds of wounds inflicted by a dog that they know was inflicted by a dog, and they saw the resulting photographs on a person, I think that particular person may be able to make some comment as to whether or not some wounds are consistent. However, if in terms of a medical examiner, if they've autopsied one case or two cases of dog bites and they're trying to testify based on some pictures, I would be a little concerned about that.
Does qualification for this type of business, in your mind,
Absolutely
depend
does,
on who
Bill.
hires you?
Absolutely not.
Suffice to say, you've never taken a class
Absolutely.
in the forensic analysis of dog bites.
I don't think any class exists.
But I'm asking about your experience.
Well, that's correct.
You haven't, have you?
That's correct. I can't take a course that doesn't exist.
You've never engaged in any type of opinion, looking at photographs, and then had that opinion peer-reviewed by other dog bite experts, have you?
No.
Do you have any experience in veterinarian medicine?
I'm aware of it. That's my experience.
Do you have any accomplishments, like degrees?
No.
Now, you've testified a number of times in this case, haven't you?
Yes.
And when you testify, you know there's a court reporter and there are transcripts, correct?
Yes.
You originally testified when you first came out and volunteered to testify last year, and there was a hearing before trial, wasn't there?
Excuse me? Say again,
When you
please.
volunteered to come out last year, there was a hearing before you testified at trial, wasn't there?
Yes.
Do you remember that was on June 18, 2022?
Sounds right.
And then you testified at trial on June 21st, 2022.
Yes.
I didn't have the privilege of meeting you on either of those events, did I?
No.
But since then, we have met,
Yes.
and we had a chance to speak at a subsequent hearing on December 12, 2024.
Yes.
And then after that, we again had an opportunity to discuss this on January 7, 2025.
Yes.
You have been an asset.
When you reviewed the case, when you first reviewed it before you testified last year, you had very limited information, didn't you?
Yes.
You had just an autopsy report, photographs from the coroner, photographs from the hospital, an emergency room report. Yes?
Yes, I had more than that.
The medical examiner file had a toxicology report.
Yes, and there was more.
Okay.
I believe there was a dog bite, a town of Canton report.
Okay. So when you had an opportunity to look at the medical examiner's report, you yourself had been a medical examiner, correct?
Yes.
And there's a unique advantage of actually conducting an autopsy as opposed to just looking at photographs, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
And if you are actually conducting the autopsy, you firsthand can make observations about injuries, make measurements, and see things that don't always appear in photographs.
That's correct.
And when you would do medical exams, you had a distinct advantage over people who would later see your work, a written report, or photographs, because you were there actually conducting the investigation.
Yes.
And it's for that reason that when you testified before, you have acknowledged that you relied on Dr. Scordi-Bello's report for information,
Yes.
because you didn't have the benefit of doing measurements or looking at depths or anything else firsthand.
Yes. Correct.
And when you looked at that photograph that you discussed with the jury, you also had a chance to see Dr. Scordi-Bello's report regarding the abrasions on Mr. O'Keefe's arm.
Yes.
She described those abrasions as superficial, didn't she?
Yes.
She actually gave measurements, 3 centimeter superficial abrasion on the right medial upper arm. Right?
Yes.
You not only read that, you deferred to her ability to have a first-hand observation, and you accepted that as true, didn't you?
Yes, but there's no interpretation of that abrasion.
Multiple abrasions from 2 to 3 millimeters and up to 7 centimeters on the posterior right arm and forearm.
Yes.
Did you read that from
I
Dr.
did.
Scordi-Bello?
Yes.
Did you accept her finding and
Yes.
observation?
Yes.
And you would agree she was in a far superior position than you when she made these observations and notes, correct?
They are not inconsistent with what I said.
That's not what I asked, though.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be sharp. I
Okay.
apologize.
Oh my God.
Did you rely on her ability and first-hand observation of those wounds?
Yes.
And did you appreciate or accept the fact she had a superior opportunity to evaluate those wounds firsthand that you did not have the benefit of?
She made no interpretation of those ones.
Did you know that Dr. Scordi-Bello had described them as superficial?
They are.
Did you know that she said there was no depth and no puncture?
Not inconsistent with what I said.
I understand, doctor, but I'm asking you, do you
I-
know that her position is that there was no puncture and no depth to those wounds?
Objection, Your Honor. Do we have the witness see the report that he keeps referring to?
Can you answer that question without seeing it, or do you need to see it?
Well, I remember it, but there's no inconsistency here. I agree with that.
Would you accept that Dr. Scordi-Bello's opinion is that there was no depth and no puncture to those wounds?
May I see the report?
She just
It
said
might not be in the
yes.
report. I'm asking about any testimony, anything that she's ever said. Would you agree or accept her position that there is no puncture or depth to those
Just said
wounds?
yes.
Objection, Your Honor. Like all the questions that were about an autopsy. Yes. Sorry, Robert.
Okay.
She just said yes. And it was not inconsistent with anything that she said. Brennan, she answered your damn question. You don't like her answer. Just because you don't like her answer doesn't mean she didn't answer it. Yes, they are shallow. They are not inconsistent with a dog bite, though. My dog bite wasn't deep because it was from Spike. And the minute, I wish I'd taken pictures. The minute he realized he bit me and not the other dog he was going for, he let go quick. It wasn't deep, but he had enough bacteria in his mouth, and I didn't have an immune system. My arm, man, that's probably the worst pain I've ever been in my life. The bacteria in his mouth, man, they were having a party in my arm. My arm was like 3 sizes bigger than normal. He bit me in the hand, but my whole arm swelled up. It was not fun. He picked the worst time in the world. Well, he didn't bite me. I mean, he bit me, but he wasn't trying to bite me. Got between them. But he knew he messed up because as soon as he bit, he let go because he knew he bit the wrong person. And he was so sad for so long. And like, I still have a PTSD from it because he will occasionally still growl at the other animals. And every time he does, I get scared. And I'm not afraid of him. You guys have seen me. I was holding him this morning. He's my little buddy. I love him to pieces. But that immediate fear response happens every time he growls. And the other night, he was, I don't know if he was leaving the bedroom and Belle was coming in the bedroom, or if he was just standing at the bedroom door and Belle was trying to come in the bedroom. I don't know what happened. But he tried to attack Belle for no reason. And it was that immediate fear response just. And I was like, do something, Travis, do something, do something. We were all there. Me and Travis was there, both of them, and all of a sudden fight. And I was like, do something, Travis, do something, do something. It was just like flashback to getting bit all over again. And he wasn't even near me. It's just that sound of him fighting. It just sets that off in my brain that I'm going to get bit again. It's total PTSD. I was in the hospital for 9 days after he bit me. I had 2 surgeries. He's so cute, though. He's asleep under the dining room table right now. He's such a cute little boy. He just has jealousy issues big time. He's never been an only dog. If he'd been an only dog, I can understand the jealousy, but he's never been an only dog. There's always been other animals here. Last night, or the other night, Travis looked at him and he looked him right in the eye and he went, "You've never been an only dog and you never will be." Oh, I forgot to show you. I keep forgetting. I meant to show you guys yesterday on the members only.
Hey,
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
I found it.
May I?
Yes, please.
Dr. Russell, I read to you the measurements that were in Dr. Scordi-Bello's report. Are you aware that she testified that these superficial abrasions did not have any depth or any puncture?
I don't recall that.
Well, would you
No,
agree
Wiggles,
if
it's
Dr.
not.
Scordi-Bello testified in this court that those superficial abrasions did not have any puncture or depth? Would you agree with that assessment?
Objection, Your Honor.
In that form, it's sustained.
Would you agree that the superficial abrasions on Mr. O'Keefe's arm had no punctures?
I agree.
Would you agree that the abrasions, the superficial abrasions on Mr. O'Keefe's arm had no depth?
No measurable depth, yes.
Between the last time you testified and then you testified here today, have you spoken to the attorneys at all regarding the issue of punctures?
No.
Because you are agreeing today that those superficial abrasions did not have any punctures, right?
They don't appear to have any punctures.
But you, in the past, have testified very, very differently than that, haven't you?
No.
Now, we've spoken many times. I'm going to go through many of those examples later, but we'll do that a little bit later, Dr. Russell. Over the course of your many testimonies under oath, would it be fair to say that you have changed your opinions about the
How does
superficial
Red
abrasions
feel
to John
allowed
O'Keefe's
to?
arm many times?
I don't believe that's fair to say.
In the past, when you were describing Mr. O'Keefe's superficial abrasions on his arm, did you give varying and different opinions about the cause of each individual wound, area of wound?
I don't believe so.
When you first gave opinions, that was before the last proceeding. You came in and you were questioned before you testified in that initial proceeding, right? I'm trying to be as specific as I can. You testified last year?
Yes.
And before-
In
Please.
there was a hearing and then there was a proceeding.
Okay. That prior hearing, can we call the first event the prior hearing and the next one the prior proceeding?
I'm confused.
I don't want to confuse you. I'm just trying to follow the rules. You testified twice last year, didn't you?
3 times.
3 times. Okay. The first time you testified was just before the judge?
Yes.
Okay. When you first testified before the judge, do you remember that you had uncertainty about how each and every one of those wounds was caused?
I don't remember that.
Do you remember when you then testified a couple days later at the proceeding that some of your opinions changed from the first time you testified?
I don't believe that.
And then when you later met me and we've had a chance to talk over the last 2 events, December and January, would it be fair to say that your opinions regarding the individual areas of wound changed?
I don't believe so.
Okay. At some point, before or during our conversations in December and January, you wrote a report, didn't you?
Yes,
When you wrote that report, you hadn't written a report before the first time you came in and testified, had you?
that's correct.
And it was between those hearings in December and in January where you wrote your first report.
Sounds correct.
You dated that report December 9th, 2024. Does that ring a bell?
Yes,
When you wrote that report, you did not write that report alone, did you?
I did.
You had some help, didn't you?
Not in the content of the report.
Well, you sent the report back a number of times for review and revisions, didn't you?
In terms of organization,
And some of the language in this report is really not your language, it's the language of somebody who helped you write some of this, isn't it?
you know, if somebody helped me write it, it would have been much better written than that.
Didn't you agree that you had some assistance with the report? Haven't you testified to that before?
And no, and in terms of organization, there was some comments, though, this sentence belongs, you know, with this paragraph or the, you know, whatever. But in terms of content, that was my work.
Well, it was your report, correct?
It's my report.
And when you write a report, it's your words, not somebody else's, isn't that true?
That's correct.
But nevertheless, you had somebody assisting you. True?
In terms of organization, yes.
Who was helping you with the report?
It was somebody from the law office.
Well, it was this gentleman right here, Attorney Alisi, who just asked you questions. He helped you,
No,
didn't he?
actually, it wasn't.
Was it from his law firm that somebody helped you?
I believe so, but it was in terms of organization.
Who was helping you with your report?
I don't remember her name.
Would you agree that after that report was written, many of your opinions changed?
No,
In your report, you provide your background. Yes?
yes,
And you've been licensed to practice medicine since 1988
yes,
as a physician?
yes.
And you've been licensed to practice medicine as a surgeon?
It's called, in California, it's called physician and surgeon license.
Do you have a physician and surgeon's license?
I do.
Okay. Have you ever practiced as a surgeon?
Well, in the emergency department, we do surgery. We have to do some surgery sometimes. We have to open up people's chests and, you know, and compress the heart sometimes when they have gunshot wounds to the chest. I've had to put chest tubes in. I've had to debride dog bite wounds and other wounds. So yes, there is a component of surgery.
If you do stitches, that's considered surgery, isn't it?
Maybe.
Well, medically speaking, stitches is surgery.
I don't know, maybe.
Okay. Do you have a surgeon's license?
I have a physician and surgeon's license in California.
Now, when you first looked at this case and testified, do you remember when you were looking at Mr. O'Keefe's superficial wounds, you said that you thought they appeared to be consistent with an animal attack?
I do remember that.
And when you were describing animal attack, you were a lot less specific than you were today, weren't you?
Yes.
You were less sure about your opinion when you first testified about this case than you provided to this jury today.
I was certain that it was a dog attack. However, as I mentioned before to you, in medicine, we're taught never, you know, nothing is 100%, and therefore never say, you know, anything's 100%. So that's why I gave that generalization. However, I have reviewed the case, but I personally was certain that those were dog marks. Now, I have reviewed this case over and over and over again. Plus, I've read additional articles more than once, and which substantiate, again, my findings. So, so my degree of certainty perhaps increased.
So when you first testified in this case, back in June of 2022, are you agreeing that your testimony was less certain than today?
believed that it was a dog attack at that time.
When you testified, you didn't say dog attack, you said animal attack at the beginning, didn't you?
Yes,
And when you were asked about the cause, you said that it could be bite or scratch wounds.
correct.
So back in June, when you were looking at individual wounds, you, at that time anyways, were unable to differentiate between bite and scratch wounds.
They are very similar.
I understand, but today, you seem pretty unequivocal. So I want to go back to the beginning and see the
Objection, Your
evolution. I'm asking a
So-
question.
All right, so the argumentative part is out. Ask the question, Mr. Booth.
I want to go back to identify the evolution of your opinions. So let's start at the beginning.
Objection, Your Honor.
So, question, please.
At the beginning, before your opinion evolved, you started with an opinion that this could have been either bite or scratch wounds, right?
Yes,
And if there was actually a methodology where you could identify superficial abrasions and make a determination whether it was from an animal or a dog, there would be something definitive, specific, where you could identify a scratch from a bite wound, wouldn't there be?
not unless there was a piece of tooth in the wound or a piece of nail. There would otherwise not be any specificity.
You talked about patterns when you first testified back in June of last year. And when you talked about the patterns, again, you had some uncertainty whether those patterns were caused by nails, claws, or could have been caused by teeth. Isn't that fair to say originally that was your position?
Yes, there is some overlap in terms of the appearances. They can appear very similar, and they can be arranged very similar in terms of parallel lines.
In fact, when you first testified, you weren't consistently even saying that it was a dog, or as you say today, dog attack. You were saying, in your opinion, that they were the result of animal bites or scratches. That was what you originally opined, isn't it?
We just went through that, yes.
And at some point, you said that it might most likely be a large dog. Do you remember that?
Objection, Your Honor. Can we approach with regard to this line of questioning?
So why don't we break for today? All right, so jurors, we're not going to finish this today in the next 5 minutes, so it seems like it's a good place to break. I do have to give you those same cautions. Please do not discuss this case with anyone. Don't do any independent research or investigation into the case. If you happen to see, hear, or read anything about the case, please disregard it and let us know. Please be very careful with your social media use. Tomorrow is also a full day. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much. Dr. Russell, you can again just follow.
Thank you.
Please, close it open, follow me.
Okay, thank you.
Can I see counsel while the jury is filing out, please?
Oh, cool, Terry. I would be highly upset with all the sidebars. And that's why the lawyers asked if they could say why they were objecting because they thought that would prevent all the sidebars. I don't think it would prevent the sidebars. I think they would still have just as many sidebars. So, Terry, do you bake bread like what's the word I want? Not from scratch, but like the old-fashioned way, or do you have like a bread machine that bakes bread? don't bake bread. And I should not learn either because I'm not supposed to be eating bread. I made myself a cup of coffee at lunch and it's still sitting over there in the coffee maker. I forgot about it. I never did get it. I guess I'll go pour it over ice now and make it iced coffee. The old fashioned way. Cool. Where you have to knead it and then it sit and rise. See, anything that takes a long time to make, I've never made. Because if I want to make something, I want to eat it. I want to make it and then eat it. Anything that takes a while to make, I can't. I've never even tried. Like, there are these protein balls things that I make. I've only made them once. I've got a box up there now. And the thing that's keeping me from making them is they have to go in the fridge. I remember when the first box I bought and the first time I got them down to make them, and I'm like, I have to put them in the fridge before I can eat them? They're no bake. They're like, it's like granola and you mix it with honey and melted butter. Of course, it says to use plant butter, but I didn't have any plant butter. I just had regular butter. So I made it. Yeah, regular butter. I used unsalted butter. So you mix the honey with the granola and oats and stuff that comes with it. It's snickerdoodle flavor. It's high protein. It's got protein. I don't know what the kind of protein it is, but it's got protein in there. You put the honey and the melted butter, and then you make them into balls, but you can't roll them into balls. You kind of just have to like squeeze them into a ball shape, and then you put them in a pan and then you have to put them in the fridge. So they have to harden, like, set up in the fridge. And I was like, I can't eat them now. Why can't I eat them? I want to eat them now. I made them so I could eat them. But they were really, really good. Really, they were worth the wait. They really were worth the wait. But I have another box up there now. I'm like, I need to make them. I just don't want to wait to eat them. But I got to make them if I want to eat them at all. So I keep putting it off. Wow, you make English muffins too, Terry? Wow. I I've never heard of rhubarb bread. I've heard of rhubarb pie. I had rhubarb pie. It wasn't straight rhubarb, it was something else in it. I had at my husband's ex's house for Thanksgiving when the kids were little. We used to go over there for Thanksgiving, and um I don't remember, strawberry maybe? Rhubarb strawberry, and I did not like it. And I'm assuming it was because exactly. I'm just like Veruca. I want it now. Just like Veruca. I want it now. But I don't like rhubarb. I'm assuming it's the rhubarb I didn't like because I love strawberries. I'm pretty sure it was strawberry rhubarb pie. And I didn't care for it. Yeah, I don't want to make anything. There was a recipe the other day. I don't remember what it was. And I was like, oh, cool. And I went to look at the recipe and I was going to keep it and try it. And it was like all these steps. And it was like, now you have to wait and let it freeze. And I was like, you have to freeze it for so many hours. And then you have to do this. And then you have to freeze it for so more many hours. And then I was like, nope, that's not happening. If I can't make it and eat it, no. Why do I have to freeze it for so many hours? No. No, no, no. I don't remember what it was. Oh, I do remember what it was. Something I shouldn't eat. Um, it was cake pops, but they look like ice cream cones. It was, if it's the one I'm thinking of, someone took like a store-bought sheet cake and then like flipped it upside down, mashed it all up, um, and put ice cream on top of it and mixed it all up together, and then made it into balls and put it in the freezer. And then took like the candy melts and melted them, and then dipped them in the candy melt. So then they went back in the freezer, and then put like a ice cream cone on top of them and sprinkles on them, and they went back in the freezer. Like it was like, do this, freeze, do this, freeze, do this, freeze. And I was like, too many steps to freeze part. No. Is it better just plain then? Because I didn't like it in a pie. I don't know. I've never had it. I don't even know what it looks like when it grows. Like I've only ever had it in that pie that one time. I don't know. Maybe that's not something we grow down here. Are we done? What is happening? They've got me paranoid to stop the stream now, cuz not every time I stop it, but a lot of the times when I have stopped it, there's been more stuff. So, I don't want to go until I'm absolutely sure there's nothing else going to happen. It looks like red celery. I I didn't like baked apples. I don't know why. I didn't that was like the only cooked fruit that I didn't like. But now I like them again. I don't know what made me all of a sudden start liking them again, but I do. But I love peach cobbler. Peach cobbler is one of my favorite things in the world. And I make good peach cobbler too. I haven't made any in a long time. I guess that means I guess we're done. Okay, well, I didn't make my goal, but I'll show you the video anyway. I'm not even sure. This video. Peach cobbler, warm peach cobbler with vanilla ice cream. Come on, StreamYard. Okay. Shadow, what you doing? Whoop. I can't make it any bigger. Sorry, guys. Oh, wait. Maybe I can. Hang on. Oh, there we go. A little bit bigger. Are you having fun? You got my yarn all over the room. That's Tribbles. She's gone. That's the one that I. It's gonna take me forever to untangle it now. You're silly. Hey, pretty Tribby. Hey, baby. See, the little squirt got yarn all over the place. Travis said she booby trapped the bedroom. Wow, look how clean the bedroom was back then. Isn't she cute? She was so tiny. She's got my yarn all over the place. Look at how little. I weighed her yesterday. She weighs 11 and a half. She's a chunky monkey. She's rotten. Spoiled rotten. She doesn't play with toys like that anymore, though. Shadow, what you doing? I totally forgot about this video. This was like a memory on Facebook. I'm glad I put her age. She's 3 months old. There's all my Stephen King books. Are you having fun? You got my yarn all over the room. And Trilla's like, stupid kitten. Take me forever to untangle it now. Trilla's like, stupid kitten. You're silly. Hey, pretty Tribby. Hey, baby. See, the little squirt got yarn all over the place. I don't know why she won't play like that anymore. Yeah, she was tiny. Teeny, teeny, tiny. Okay, guys, I will see you in the morning. £23. Your cat weighs 23 pounds? 11 and a half, I think, is the biggest cat I've ever had. Tribbles was like 5 pounds, maybe. Okay, guys, I will see you in the morning. Be kind to people, love your family, and Jesus loves you, and so do I. Have a good evening, guys. I will see you in the morning for Phil Spector, and again, 9ish for Karen Reed, and more Dr. Marie Russell. Thanks for coming out, guys, and thank you for the super chats.